Hello, this is the luckiest maths teacher in the world. Thank you so much for tuning into this video in which we will look at the area and circumference of circles. So here we have a circle, not the best drawn, but in the middle here we call this point O. O is the origin or the center of the circle. So there's a few definitions we need to know. The diameter is the line that goes from one side of the circle to the other through the middle. It cuts the circle perfectly in half. Diameters can go this way or this way. There's actually infinitely many diameters. Any line that goes from one side of the circle to the other through the center, it will have the same length and is called the diameter. The radius is half the diameter. It is the length from the edge of the circle to the center, but it doesn't go to the other side. So the diameter is always double the radius. If the diameter of a circle is 10, the radius is 5. So the length around the outside of a circle is called the circumference. We don't call it the perimeter because technically a circle has no sides, and perimeter is the sum of side lengths. So circumference is this length all the way around, one revolution, one full circle here. So how do we calculate this circumference? Well, there's two ways that are pretty much the same way. It turns out that in any circle, the circumference is the diameter times pi. So pi is an irrational number that you see on your calculator. Pi is 3.141592653 blah, blah, blah. Because it's irrational, its decimal expansion goes forever and there is no pattern. Fortunately, you don't need to remember pi. You can just press the pi button on your calculator. But pi is the ratio of any circle's circumference to its diameter. Doesn't matter how big or small the circle is, the circumference is always 3.14159 times its diameter. These two formulae here are essentially the same thing because diameter is double the radius. So you can just use this formula if you are given the radius and this if you're given the diameter. So pi is also used in area. The area of any circle is pi times radius squared. So let's use these formulas to find the circumference and area of this circle here. So the circumference, all I do to find that is just take the diameter and times it by pi. This is the diameter. It's a line of symmetry for the circle. It goes from one side of the circle to the other and through the middle. So you can use your calculator for this and you get about 37.7 centimeters. Circumference is just length, so it's just in units of length, like millimeters, centimeters, whatever. On the other hand, the area of this, well, if the diameter is 12, that means the radius will be exactly half that. It'll be 6. We need the radius to find the area. So it'll be pi times radius squared, and that gives us about 113.1, and this will be in units squared. So how then would we find the area and perimeter of this shape here? So notice I said perimeter. This shape does have a perimeter because it does have sides. So how are we going to find this out? Well, we're going to use this angle in the middle. See, we know that a circle is 360 degrees. That's a full circle. So 30 over 360 is 1/12. This is 1/12 of a circle. So what we're going to do to find this length and to find the area, we are going to find the area and circumference of a full circle and then divide it by 12. So note here 2 is the radius. So if you wanted to find the circumference of a full circle with radius 2, it'd be 2 times pi times radius. But what we have to do here is we have to divide by 12. We're in effect timesing by 30 over 360 because it's 1/12 of a circle. So that is just this arc length here. Arc is part of the circumference of a circle. So that'll be 2 pi times 2 over 12. But when we're finding the perimeter, we also need to include these two straight edges. So we need to add 4 to our answer there. And putting that on our calculator, we get about 5.05, and that will be meters. So let's calculate the area. Well, we know that the area of a full circle with radius 2 is going to be pi times radius squared. But because this is 33/60ths, or 1/12 of a circle, we need to times it by 30 over 360. So putting that on calculator, we get about 1.05 meters squared. So just note here, my final answer, I use the approximately equal to sign. The area here isn't exactly 1.05, but it is very close. So when you're finding the area of this shape here is called a sector, you just do pi r squared and you times by theta over 360. You times by the angle, which I called theta, divide 360, because this tells you what fraction of the circle you have. And when you're finding an arc length, you just go 2 pi times radius, and again we times by angle over 360, because that tells us what fraction of the circle we have. All right, let's now look at a harder problem. So we're going to calculate the perimeter of this shape if its area is 50 centimeters squared. So we have absolutely no hope of calculating the perimeter if we don't know its radius. So that should be the first question you ask. What do I need to know to calculate the perimeter? I need to know the radius. Now then, we have to find the radius. So we are told that the area is 50. So the area of a full circle is pi r squared. Now, because this is 135 degrees, it's 135 3/60ths of a circle. 135 of 360 is 3/8. This is 3/8 of a full circle. So 3/8 of the full circle gives us an area of 50. We need to find what r is. And we always follow the process when finding a side length, or like a radius, that we write down the formula, substitute in everything we know, rearrange to find what we don't know. So let's rearrange this. What we need to do to get rid of this fraction is times by the opposite. If we times this side by 360 over 135, they will cancel out. 360 over 135 times 135 over 360 equals 1. What you do to one side, though, you must do to the other. So our first step here is 50 times 360 over 135. So when we put that in our calculator, we get 133.3 recurring, or if you like, 133 1/3. So that is the area of a full circle. If this were a full circle with the same radius, it would have area 133.3 recurring. So now what we want to do is we want to get r by itself. So what we're going to do is we're going to divide by pi, and then what we need to do is square root both sides to get from r squared to r. And if you put that on your calculator, we get r is about 6.5147. I use 4 decimal places here because I'm now going to use this number in subsequent calculations. I want it to be as accurate as possible. So we found that if this shape here has area of 50 centimeters squared, its radius is 6.5147 centimeters. So now we can easily find its perimeter. So to find the perimeter of a sector with angle 135, radius 6.5147, we're going to go theta, angle over 360. So 135 over 360, remember, tells us that this is 3/8 of a circle. So theta over 360 times 2 pi times radius. And so putting that in our calculator, we get something very close to 15.35. Once again, we use the approximately equal to sign. It's not exactly 15.35 centimeters, but it is very close. All right, thank you so much for tuning into this video. This has been the luckiest maths teacher in the world. Have a great day.